As we go through this day, there's a lot to talk about. For instance, there's about to be a new second gun in the Republican hierarchy inside the Beltway. The run-up to whatever is next in Iraq continues. Numbers show trouble for President Obama and Democrats in the battleground states. This and a whole lot more, but let's begin right here on MidPoint MidPoint Now. It's easy for me to say. And welcome in political analyst and commentator Dick Morris. Dick, see what happens? I get all flustered every time I know that you're going to be on the show. Welcome in, my friend.
That's right, Ich bin ein Berliner.
Well, thank you, but you of course know what Ich bin ein Berliner means, don't you? It means we are either all Berliners or you know the other side of that, don't you?
Yes, I do.
We could be jelly
but
donuts.
Don't say it. We'll be kicked off the air. We'll be kicked off the air just as soon as they let us on.
No, but it just means we could all be jelly donuts as a Berliner. But that's okay. We're easy to that.
Right.
We have a lot to talk about, but let me get through right away what is at the top of the news right now. We just heard a soundbite from General David Petraeus saying the U.S. basically cannot be the Air Force for Iraq's militias. Your first take as you heard this from General Petraeus?
Well, I think he's right, and of course that is the headline story. But there are two stories that lie behind this that I think are worth probing that we'll talk about and many of the other networks may not. The one is the American involvement with this ISIS group. We had the leader of ISIS in custody and let him go in 2009. Much of the equipment that they're using is captured American equipment from the Iraqis, but some of it may have come from that Benghazi weapons dump and covertly given to Syrian rebels who included the ISIS group. And thirdly, there's a report from WorldNetDaily.com, which is usually very reliable, but needs to be taken with a little bit of caution, that there was a base in northern Jordan in the desert where we trained the ISIS forces, particularly in killing tanks.
There's another part to this now, because you just brought it and gave us a lot of the background here. Now we have the president who is apparently ready to make some sort of a statement within the next half hour, and the thinking process is, and this is just thought right now, that he's talking about potentially 100 plus Delta Force agents going into Iraq to gather intelligence at this point. Again, we're talking about this boots on the ground scenario that so many Americans have been against from the beginning, but I think we have to temper that by saying the military will tell you, well, we can't go in and just take airstrikes against such a mobile group here. We need intelligence to get the work done in the first place. So there's a lot of cart before the horse being put in here, is there not?
Well, the military question we can't comment on. I would suspect, though, that in a desert with satellites, you don't necessarily need 100 guys running around the country trying to look through binoculars to see what you should hit. But I'm not going to, I don't know that. In terms of the decision Obama has to make, that's political, and that I do know about. There are two situations going on now where there's a clear juxtaposition, a clear conflict between national security and Obama's political interest. One is in Iraq, where national security probably militates for a very vigorous involvement to stop this caliphate from being formed. On the other hand, what's holding him up is his campaign pledge to pull out of Iraq. And the other is steaming around the Atlantic Ocean right now, probably the least luxurious cruise you've ever seen, is Katala, the guy who was the mastermind, allegedly, of the Benghazi attack. And the reason we're steaming him around on a ship rather than putting him in a prison is that Obama won't let him into Gitmo because he's promised not to put any new inmates in. So instead of a long-term interrogation where he knows this is his home and he's got to get along with these people and his life depends upon it, now he's going to be on a boat where we hope he spills the beans in a week or 2 weeks while the ship cruise lasts. A ridiculous constraint to put on such an important intelligence move for only one reason: he pledged not to put him in Gitmo.
All right, let's go ahead and move on to a few other things because those are two stories.
And by the way, there were 5
Please.
empty cells in Gitmo to the 3 sons of guns that he threw out there.
Well pointed out, too. We wait on these stories as well for the president's address at 12:30, but a couple of things I know also that we wanted to touch on with you. Lois Lerner's hard drive has been destroyed, and the IRS is saying this is standard operating procedure, and I would imagine that there are those saying it is a little more than standard operating procedure.
Well, for this administration, destruction of evidence is standard operating procedure, but not in the sense that you mean. What this does is it moves the fight from the sender of the email to the recipient of the email. It's not that those emails are lost forever, as everybody's saying. They're not. Somebody else got them, and they're scattered all over the White House, the Justice Department, the FBI, the Federal Elections Commission, and the Treasury Department. And we need all of those emails that were lost were conveniently the ones sent outside of the IRS. And what's needed now is subpoenas to each of those agencies to say, please give us any emails you received from Lois Lerner. Now, in the White House, which is not covered by Freedom of Information, the president may assert that emails sent by Lerner to the White House are covered by executive privilege, in which case he'll be trying legally to stop us getting what he illegally, or his people illegally, deleted. But this doesn't mean the fight's over. It just means we have to transfer the fight to the recipients of the email, not the sender.
And continue to, as they say, follow the money or follow the trail. Interesting on Obamacare right now. Individual premiums, according to Forbes and a survey there, up 47%. Here's what I found that was interesting. They looked at this and they looked at where a lot of these premiums went. Buchanan County, Missouri, about 45 miles north of Kansas City, men had the greatest increase of 271%. And Goodhue County in Minnesota for women, about an hour southwest of Minneapolis, 200%. Those are the far ends of this. But my goodness, Dick, I mean, we're seeing here tremendous premium rises going up here that, of course, the administration and the people who like Obamacare will want to say, shh, as much as you possibly can.
Well, what they're doing is not only saying shh, what they're also doing is they're trying to bribe their way out of 2015 increases, because the increases next year would be even more horrific than these. Remember, these increases are based on very optimistic assumptions about the number of young people, the number of older people that are signing up for Obamacare. And in fact, we're finding that that's not true, that fewer young people and more older people signed up. So for 2015, using this experiential data, the insurance companies have to recompute their premiums. And those are whopping increases that may even dwarf the ones that we've already seen. But what Obama's doing is trying to give the insurance companies almost $1 trillion of our money to pay them to absorb those losses themselves, at least for 2 years or 3 years, before they pass them on to us, enough to get through the elections of 14 and 16. And that's the game that's going on right now.
Here's something else now, and we had talked about this. A bill to prevent law enforcement officials without warrants from accessing private email accounts, now backed by the majority of the House. 218 co-sponsors. There's action coming very likely on this, correct?
One of the things I love about this new network is that you're covering stories that a lot of people don't cover. This is an enormously important story for all kinds of reasons. The NSA now does not have to use a warrant to open emails. And a bill has been introduced in the House and the Senate to require that. Now, in the House, it has 218 co-sponsors. That's a majority of the House. Why do they need that? Because Boehner won't bring it up on the floor. And in the Senate, Leahy, a liberal Democrat, head of the Judiciary Committee, has a similar bill voted out of committee, but Harry Reid won't let it out on the floor. So Reid and Boehner, who oppose each other on everything, are collaborating with Obama to squelch this issue and to let the NSA do whatever it wants. But Democrats and Republicans have formed a coalition in each house to demand that their leaders put these bills up for a floor vote. Eventually, they're going to have to do it. I think Boehner will cave first, and then Reid will have to cave. And then Obama may veto it, and you may see the first override of a presidential veto in the Obama administration.
Just a few seconds we have left here. They've got 218 co-sponsors. They need 290, two-thirds of the House. Do you think they'll reach that number?
Well, I don't think they're right now not claiming that they want a discharge petition. If that ever happened, the Speaker might as well resign to a discharge petition usurping his power. But the threat of a discharge petition, because if they got 218, they can damn well get 290, is enough to scare Boehner into scheduling a vote. They'll vote it. They'll pass it. It'll go to the Senate. Reid won't want to vote on it. Pressure will build. There will be a Senate vote. It will pass the Senate. It'll go to Obama, and now the ball's in his court.
Frank talk, Mr. Morris. It's what we always enjoy. Thank you so much, my friend. We'll talk to you again real soon.
Thank you.
Dick Morris, our Newsmax political consultant, and he throws up an awful lot of things here, which we have to talk about in the next couple of days. Reminder, too, the president is due to make an address on Iraq within the next 15 to 20 minutes. We'll bring that to you as soon as we have that. Now, you get to tell us what you think, and we come back here on MidPoint, where we question everything.